Hello everyone, it's Dean the Autist. Welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Let's continue, shall we? Rise and shine. Chirping birds. Normally this would be a good time to reflect upon the beauty of nature, but it is 6 a.m. Covering my head with the pillow, I slam my face into the mattress, hoping that the impact will send me instantly back to sleep. Futile. I toss and turn, but sleep simply won't return to me. Alright, nature, you've won, see? I'm getting up now. The lack of sleep weighs my mind down, and there's only one remedy for this: a nice hearty breakfast. It would be nice to be the first person here, to be the first to dig into a piping hot pile of food to sit wherever I desire. It would have been nice, but even my exceptionally early start has put me behind the most diligent students. I guess there are quite a few people that have early starts here. For one reason or another, a group of students in sports clothes huddle around one table, eagerly discussing game plans in between inhaling great gulps of food. Scattered around the hall are a number of bleary-eyed students, probably suffering from the same ailment as myself: noisy birds. And of course, there are the people that actually enjoy getting up this early, the ones with their bags stuffed with textbooks and completed homework. It's hard not to despise people like that, even more so when you're tired yourself. Damn, he's talking about me! Look, I get up at like 4:30 every day to do stuff, even when I'm not working. So, yeah, he's talking about me. Picking out a familiar face from the thin crowd, I head towards the nearest table. Lily sits alone, delicately feeling her way around a small plate of eggs with her fork. It's almost a shame to interrupt her in her clockwork movements. I wonder, is this how a blind person zones out? Simply moving in predetermined patterns learned over the years? Just like how a sighted person would eat while reading a newspaper? Good morning, Lily. I didn't expect you to be here this early. Oh, Hazao, you startled me. I didn't know you took breakfast this early. I don't. This is an exception to the rule. I greatly prefer to be late to school than early to breakfast. Lily gives a small sigh at my admitted tardiness as I begin eating my food. It doesn't take long for her to lapse back into her previous mindless nibbling. Each short motion lacks energy. I suppose this is similar to letting your eyes wander while performing any ordinary chore. But after a few repetitions of the find food, eat food cycle, Lily puts down her fork and dabs her lips with a napkin. Hazao, do you mind if I ask you a question? Damn. All I want is a little food and about 4 hours of sleep, and nobody says, "Can I ask you a question?" for a simple question. Sure. Do you think of Hanako as a friend? Huh? This seems like a leading question. I guess so. Why do you ask? No real reason. I do have another question, though. Why is it that you think of her as a friend? I don't know, probably because you two just like hanging out and like, you like to spend time together. Like, keep in mind this is coming from someone that doesn't have any real friends, but I would imagine friendships are just like people you like to do stuff with and hang out with a lot of the time. I don't think it's that complicated to think of someone as a friend. Then again, it might be my autismo speech talking. This is well above my level. What is she expecting from me? I'm not really sure. I guess it's because she's a little different in the way she deals with people. Since I've known her, she hasn't really connected with anyone. She doesn't seem interested in other people, and I think people are a little scared off by her appearance. Yeah, like, you're like half your body is scarred. Some people are gonna be like, so yeah. Really? I thought that kind of thing was, well, discouraged here. discriminating and such. If I were to put it one way. She furrows her brow in thought, a move which makes me slightly anxious as to what she's plucking from her mind. I'd say that you're a little naive. Naive? I'd be insulted if not for the slightly cynical grin on her face. I see. While Yamaku has a stronger sense of community compared to other schools, it's far from being free of conflict. Rules cannot remove human nature after all, only suppress it. That's something I've noticed actually. Just little things like how certain people and cliques avoid each other in the hallways. It's no different than my old school, really. Even Lily and Shizune could be considered bitter rivals, even though they both seem like fairly accepting people. Well, at least the Misha-tinted Shizune does. Who knows what actually goes on with her fingers and behind her glasses. I guess you're right, but when I first came here, everything was a bit of a shock. I kept on making mistakes, or at least thinking I was making mistakes, like when we first met and I said, I see to you. I didn't know if that was considered rude or anything, so I just tried to put it in the back of my mind, treating people any differently and that kind of thing. So I didn't. I told myself that Hanako and you and everyone else was just normal, and tried to ignore the obvious. I talked to Hanako as if she were any other person, so we became friends. At least, that's how I think it happened. But you know, I feel guilty from just saying something like that aloud, as if it took extra effort to think of Hanako or you or anyone else as normal people. I don't think that's right. Hizao, I think you are naive, but I also think that you're a good person. It is perhaps one of your better traits. I suppose? I can take that as a compliment. Tell me, are you free tonight? Oh. Wait, that wasn't the Hanako route, right? Hold on. Nah, speaking of which, yeah, I have no idea. Okay. Tell me, are you free tonight? If you don't count homework, then I'm as free as the breeze. In that case, would you care to join myself and Hanako for tea? Hold up. I don't really have that much money at the moment, so going out isn't really... Oh, I didn't mean going out. Just here. This evening. You can access the classrooms in the evening here? No, that's not what I meant. Hanako and I often use my room for tea parties together. Please feel free to drop by after dusk. Yes. Hizao, come to my room tonight. Come on. Come to my room after dusk. Come on, Hizao. Sure, I see no problem with that. What's your room number? Yes, Hizao. Come to my room after curfew. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. 225. Room 25 on the second floor. Okay, sure. Well then, I had best be off. I have class representative duties to attend to, after all. Until this evening, Hizao. Yeah, catch you later. Hang on. Was I just invited to a girl's room after hours? Is that even allowed? There is a curfew here, but I've never heard any rules about visitors in the dorm rooms. Even still, this is enough to get my sleep-deprived brain jump-started. Add that to a lukewarm breakfast, and you have one hell of a pick-me-up. Damn, I get to go to a girl's room? What the fuck? I grudgingly go to class, still a little excited at the prospect of breaking the rules. Of breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law. I feel like a little kid planning to sneak out of his window at night. Well, maybe that's going a little too far, but when you compare an invitation to a party to 6 or so hours of lectures, I know which one wins. Micha and Shizune do little to relieve my boredom either. For once, they seemed determined to actually complete Mutuo's assignments. Yeah. I have to wonder, Is his owl like actually like that handsome, or is he like? Hold on. Like then again, this was 2009, but comparing it to the modern day, you'd have to be at least somewhat handsome in order to have some, uh, yeah, in order to have some chance with pretty much any woman. So yeah, I'm just gonna drop this topic. Why does Hazao get so many girls? Okay, I'm done. Nevertheless, the day eventually winds to a close. I hurry back to my room and wash up and comb my hair. Thankfully, I don't run into Kenji. Before long, I am leaving the boys' dorm. I nervously rap on the door marked 225, checking my watch once again. Is that you, Hazao? The door is open. You can come in. Lily's voice lilts through the door and soothes my nerves. This is the first time I've been invited to a girl's room after dark. Even though I know there's no ulterior motive behind this invitation, it doesn't stop my mind running wild with possibilities. One guy, two girls, in a dorm room with a tea set. When I put it like that, it sounds a little dodgy. Giving a small sigh to steady myself, I gingerly put my hand on the handle and opened the door, craning my head to see inside. Oh no, they're already in their pajamas. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Sorry. The door opens completely, and I catch my first glimpse of Lily's room. Her furniture looks almost antique, but the bare walls and flat surfaces are barely decorated at all. In the center of the room sits a low table, where I see a small seat set at rest. It seems that everything in this room has its place, possibly excepting the several piles of books stacked up against the wall. My sense of vision isn't the only one to be stimulated. The faint smell of something that can be picked up on the air. Nail polish, perfume, makeup. It's hard to describe in any way other than girly. My eyes finish their quick sweep of the room before returning their position onto the girls. Lily sits next to the small table, wearing dark blue pajamas. Dark blue pajamas with shorts that show off plenty of her alluring pale legs. That must be like a really dark blue. I thought they were black. But I guess if they're dark blue, they're dark blue. Opposite of her, Hanako sits adorned in a conservative light pink gown. Her hands are firmly fixed between her legs, her shoulders forward, and head down as if trying to hide herself in it. It would be easy for her to do. It looks about 2 sizes too big for her. Waves of flannel flow from her frame, making her look like a child playing dress-up in her parents' clothes. She looks up to confirm my identity, and the beginnings of a thin smile creep across her face, before vanishing so fast that I can't be sure they were ever there. There's no point in you standing in the doorway, Hazao. I take a step into the room, closing the door behind me. My, I'm afraid this really is a small room for the three of us. Would you like to take a seat? I slowly walk to the table and sit down, trying my hardest not to disturb anything along the way. I also can't help but steal a quick glance into Lily's top as I sit. Bruh. To be robbed of sight would be a most terrible fate. Bruh. Look, I know I've been saying like pervy jokes half the time here, but look, look, I am not like that IRL. I'm not. Whatever. Well, now, how about some tea? Hanako, could you please pour? Sure, Hizao would you? Would you like? I would love some tea. Do you need a hand? No, I'm fine. Thank you. Lily finds it difficult to resist a smile at her companion's nervousness, something I can't really blame her for. Been a tiring day? Yeah. I relax at my place, opposite of the cabinet. To my left is the blue-clad Lily, and to my right sits the pink Hanako. The tea set on the table looks cute as well as practical, painted red with a floral motif. It looks odd when contrasted with Lily's plain but generally sophisticated looking furniture, which leads me to think that Hanako might have picked it out. There is a slight ting when Hanako naturally clips the teapot on her cup as she is pouring. Okay, now that I think I see a little bit of the dark blue on Lily's pajamas. But like, you know, I still feel like it's mostly could be considered black. Anyways. She breathes in sharply. She must be really nervous. It's not like the kind of thing anyone would worry about. Hanako quivers at her mistake. It's okay, Hanako. There's no need to be nervous. Hanako seems to find some confidence in Lily's reassuringly soft-spoken words, and deftly pours the next 2 cups. Here you are, Hazao, Lily. Hanako carefully places a cup and saucer in front of Lily and myself. I could get used to service like this. Thank you, Hanako. Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. Lily searches for her cup. Upon finding it, sips delicately. I do the same. This tea tastes somewhat better than the tea we usually have at school. This is nice. It's so different from any tea I had before. Looks like you picked the right one, Hanako. You've done well, even if it was a bold move. Hanako's smile returns, redoubled. Even with her blighted face, her shy smile couldn't be called anything but cute. I'm glad you like it. Hanako, finally beginning to relax, sips from her cup. Something about this makes me think about Lily's question at breakfast. Why am I friends with Hanako? Lily seems genuinely concerned for Hanako's well-being, but it's not like I can do anything to help her. As far as I can tell, her scars don't hold her back physically, and everyone I've met seems to have overcome their disabilities to some extent. I don't have any ulterior motives to hang out with Hanako. We just share similar interests. Isn't that enough? So, Hazao, how are you enjoying yourself? Lily's word breaks me out of my reverie, and I take a second to reconsider where I am. This was a test, wasn't it? I'm in a room with 2 girls in their bedclothes. This is something to be enjoyed. Yeah, it's relaxing. Almost like I'm not in school anymore. Do you do this often? Quite often, but not as often as we take tea in the school building. Consider they do have that nearly every day. That's not a big surprise. As I move to take another sip from my teacup, I find it sadly empty. That was delicious. Thank you, Hanako. Lily. You're welcome. Yes, you're most welcome, Hazao. It's nice to have a third person here. Well, anytime you need someone to fill that position, I'm always available. Always. One must be sure to get one's point across in these circumstances. Lily lets a loose yawn, which she unsuccessfully hides with her hand. Pardon me. I think I'm a little tired. I think we're all a little tired. My, how astute are we tonight, Hanako? We really should head to bed. We all have class tomorrow. Yeah, I should go. Thank you for your presence, Hazao. Thanks. You'll come again? Not even a whole army could stop me. I'm impressed by your determination, Hazao. Either way, you're right. We best get going. I stand up and make for the door. Hanako gingerly stands up behind me. I stop and face her. Are you coming with me? Yeah. I thought about making a joke, but wonder if it's too far. You see, the reason... Here's the thing. I would try to make dirty jokes, but I think I've realized that, one, I'm not really the type of person to make dirty jokes, having very little experience outside of using my hand. And, two, generally just not that kind of person, but like, Hanako instantly blossoms into full blush. Maybe if I push myself, I can make some, like, pretty dirty jokes. I don't know, would that be enjoyable? No, this room isn't... It's okay, I was only joking. Oh, okay, good night. Good night, Hanako. Good night, Hizao. Night all. And with that, our tea party finishes. I'm still not sure what it is that Lily wants me to do for Hanako, but I don't want to let her down. I'll wait until the door is closed behind us before turning to Hanako. Hey, Hanako. You know, you don't have to be nervous around me or anything. I mean, we're friends, right? Right, we're friends. Take off your clothes, is out, like, excuse me. Okay. If you ever want to hang out or anything, just let me know. We still have that chess rematch, remember? Sure. But I don't think you'll win. It wouldn't be any fun if it was easy. Hanako seems to give a muted laugh, but she could have just as easily been exhaling. Good night, Hizao. With that, Hanako quickly retreats into her room, located next to Lily's. I start to walk back to my dorm, but the simple act of walking seems to drain me of my energy. I barely make it to my room before I'm hit by a wave of exhaustion. Okay, so I wonder, how did, like, Hizao avoid detection? Because, okay, if I was a hormonal teenager again, right? No, not again, but, like, let's say, yeah, I'm not sure how my teenage self would be able to slip past, the people patrolling and making sure there's no nonsense happening. Anyways, I'm not sure how my teenage self will be able to do that. So I'm wondering how Hizao is able to do that. Is Hizao actually, like, is Hizao stealth master or something? Anyways, actually no, because in Shizune's route, like, Misha gets behind him all the time. So how the fuck? Anyway, I guess he was just lucky. I barely make it to my room before I'm hit by a wave of exhaustion. I kick off my shoes, fall into bed, and fall asleep by the time my head hits the pillow. Bada bing, bada boom. I pull my door closed, ready for another day of classes. Sleep well. Kenji's sudden arrival makes me jump, and I narrowly avoid butting heads with him. I know he has poor eyesight, but he knows who I am now. Does he still have to stand this close? Oh yeah, like a baby. Damn, why do people say that? Have you ever heard of a baby sleep? They scream all night, every night. Babies don't sleep well, ever. Well, that goes my restful state. I have to remember to never use figures of speech with Kenji. Alright, I get your point, it was a figure of speech. Yeah, sure, whatever. Where were you last night? I had a favor to ask when you weren't around. For a split second, I considered telling Kenji the truth, that I was spending time with Hanako and Lily in Lily's bedroom, and they were in their pajamas. No, I'm not gonna say that. Thankfully, that split second passes as soon as it came. I was just out, checking out the local area and stuff. You know, recon. Good, man, good. I knew you were the type to plan ahead. Anyway, what was this favor you wanted? I was going to get some takeout, but I needed change. Of course, Kenji, of course. Wait, what? I gave you money last week and you still haven't paid me back. Has Kenji even, like, maybe Shizune's route with, like, the soda? But, like, I don't think Kenji has paid Hizao back in any of the routes. And it's just going to happen. It's never going to get paid. And that's the unfortunate thing. And his Emmy and in Emmy's route, Kenji just takes more. I was starting to think you were cool. Kenji fishes around in his pocket and produces his wallet. As he counts out the 400 yen he owes me, I can clearly see at least two 10,000 yen notes. Hey, what the hell? Why are you borrowing off me when you've got that much cash? Kenji hisses a little, realizing that he's been had. Get out of my case, man. It's bad luck to break a big note for anything less than half its value. It's the tycoon's rule. Last night's dinner is going to cost me 7 years of bad luck. 7 years! Don't you think that's enough cause to help someone out? I'd get a shorter sentence if I just stole the stuff. My common sense screams at me to say something to him, but thankfully I restrain myself. Arguing a point like this with Kenji will just lead to further and more complicated discussions. Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe you should plan these things a little better. Yeah, man, I knew, but I've got so much stuff to do, it's hard. And you're never around anymore, so I'm on my own. We're supposed to be brothers in brotherhood, remember? You mean like brothers in arms and stuff? Yeah, I get you. Global conspiracy and such. I'll keep my ear to the ground. Kenji draws close enough for me to get a clear whiff of his garlic-tainted breath. Wahaha, it's me, Kenji. You better, man. You're already spending less time here. That's the first thing they do. They'll try to split us up, divide and conquer. Sun Tzu said that. Roger that. Now I've got to get going. I've got classes. You coming? Nah, I'm tired. I stayed up all night just to make sure nothing was going to happen after splitting that note. As rational as ever, I see. Whatever. Night. Kenji scurries back into his room, and I hear him throwing his locks as I walk down the hallway. That is why some people can't roll their tongue, or why the second toe is longer than their big toe. Are we talking about, what was the term? Genetic diversity? Whatever. Mucho beams at a half-moon smile at us, obviously proud of his explanation of recessive genes. Okay. However, no matter how impressed he is at the science that defines who we are, the classroom seems to be reduced to a stupor. Yeah, that did happen a lot when we got into sciencey stuff. And I barely remember any of it, even though I was an A student. So yeah. Why is it that a bad explanation can make even the most interesting theme seem worthless? I can see Mutuo deflate as he realizes that nothing he said in the past half hour has sunk in. Whispered conversations start to break the silence, and like an avalanche, the noise level in the class seems to rise. Defeated, Mutuo identifies some questions from the textbook and sets to clearing off the blackboard. Almost as if expected, Hanako packs up her things and leaves as soon as people start talking and laughing among themselves. The initial shock of seeing someone play so blatantly truant has started to fade, but it doesn't stop me from wondering. Is she leaving because she doesn't want people to speak to her? Or is it just the thought of people around her shattering her peace? Before I can think about the topic any further, the lunch bells ring. I wonder if she was simply taking the opportunity to leave early. The usual clamor of students exchanging books for lunch reverberates around the room. While Misha is distracted, I grab my lunch and head out the door. Lily already sits in the tea room, setting out her lunch alone. So Hanako's not here then? Oh, Hizao. How are you? I haven't met Hanako since this morning, I'm afraid. That's right. Hanako and Lily live next to each other. Somehow, I think their morning conversations are slightly more grounded than Kenji's ramblings. That's strange. She left class early, so I figured that she'd come here. So she's still leaving class early? Huh? I've seen her do it a few times. Lily drops her head a little, and her tone of voice is notably depressed. It's very reminiscent of someone who's used to hearing bad news. I was so sure that she'd stop doing that once you two became friends. Everyone has their own pace, I suppose. Well, I was wondering about just that today. God damn it, T-Mobile, why are you... T-Mobile Tuesdays. Well, I was wondering about that today. Why exactly does she leave? I'm not entirely sure myself. Personally, I think it's because she doesn't want to be put in a situation where she has to answer to someone. I have a flashback of my first meeting with her, when I thought she looked like a cornered animal. Maybe I wasn't far from the truth. But she seems fine talking with you, and with me a bit. It's a little more complex than that. I imagine that the first thing most people ask her is about her scars and what happened. She rarely talks about it with me, but I can tell she doesn't like to remember whatever happened back then. Leaving class and running away from our discussions is her preemptive strike, if you will. Huh. So then, how does that explain her talking to me? You said it yourself yesterday at breakfast. You tried to ignore her scars. Once she saw that you weren't going to ask her about that, she opened herself up to you. I guess you're right. Maybe. I don't know. You know her better than I, so I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't worry about that. I'm sure you'll come to know her as well as I do soon enough. I welcome the prospect of her having a new friend, and the two of you have such similar interests. While I hardly count reading as a team sport, it is good to have company, though. That's my point. Hanako is still an average person at heart. She also wants company at times like that. Ah, I see. I think. To be honest, both of you still confuse me a little. That's only natural, Hizao. We've only known each other for a little while. It's unreasonable to expect you to understand us just as we can't understand you. But that is half the fun of becoming friends, right? Yes it is. Although I suppose there is the matter of us being opposite genders. Men and women do seem to confuse each other quite often. She says with a light giggle, finding amusement at the odd little details of life. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to start eating. No, go ahead. I think I'll eat something too. I've got some books I want to draw back at the library before classes start, so I'd better get a move on. You'll probably find Hanako there as well. If you do see her, can you tell her to stop by my room later tonight? I'd like to talk to her. You're not coming? Unfortunately, I have a class representatives meeting later, so I'll be gone as soon as I finish my lunch. Okay then. If I don't see her in the library then, I'll tell her in class. I'm sure she'll be back after lunch. We fall silent as we start to eat, and I take a second to reflect on our conversation. I've always thought that Hanako's shyness was simply due to her being self-conscious of her scars, but that's a pretty superficial way of looking at her. Just when I thought I was able to see through the fog of Lily and Hanako, I realized that I'm more lost than when I started. Lily quickly finishes her lunch, acutely aware of her meeting, and I don't blame her. Shizune is most likely going to be there, and I doubt she wants to give her the satisfaction of another argument. I must be off. Same time tomorrow? Same time, same channel. I'd better head off too. I don't want to risk being late. Lily smiles gently, picks up her cane, and walks out into the hall. I turn back on Lily as we head in opposite directions. For some reason, I find myself hoping she doesn't get into another fight with Shizune. As much as I like Lily, Shizune and Misha have been pretty instrumental in helping me adjust, even if half our conversations are thinly veiled recruitment attempts. Then again, I barely know either of them. Maybe they were previously leaders of some kind of secret society, but their love for each other drove them apart. Man, I need to stop reading cheap fiction. It's rotting my brain. Either that or got to move away from Kenji and his bad influence. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's sad that I can't tell the two apart anymore. I slide my books down the return chute, and they crash into the cart with a pleasant thud. Yuko, however, doesn't seem as impressed as I. Hizao? You scared me. Sorry. What the... Hold on. Sorry, I thought you would be used to that by now. Or is the literacy level here so low that nobody borrows even any books? Huh? No, I think everyone here can read fine. Okay, so... This is going to sound very weird, but, Okay, so, when I was in school, right? When I was in school... Okay, so... I'm going to give you a very different example of who I am and my, thing about literacy. So, basically, when I was in school, I think I was like a lot of other kids, not very interested in too much of reading. Of course, I had several developmental delays, so basically what would happen is, I would have most of my reading from video games, and, basically what would happen is, you know how I stutter a lot and how I have a bunch of these issues reading certain words. That's because I'm autistic. So basically what would happen is when I was younger, uh, my mom would have to sit with me and like help me read. Keep in mind this was I was in like kindergarten, first grade, etc. But as soon as I like got video games, I remember, uh, I think it was Pokepark for the Wii. It was a Pokemon game where you play as Pikachu and like make friends. And Pokepark for the Wii, what I would do is I would read the words aloud. I would read the words aloud. And that would help my speech and literacy. And so that's really how I started getting into video games, because my mom, I guess, sort of saw me like trying to read what these Pokemon characters were saying. And so I got more video games and more story-based games, and I read them, and I kept reading, and that's how I got into visual novels later in life. And then eventually what happened was there was this anime called Rising of the Shield Hero, and I know it is like isekai trash, and I'm gonna be completely honest, everything after the I would say the first few episodes does go downhill. But like I was interested, like after watching the first season, I was interested in looking into it. So basically, I think it was freshman year of high school actually. I don't remember when exactly, but basically I started reading manga, right? And because I was curious, I read all of the Shield Hero light novels at that time, and the Shield Hero web novel. And I would not recommend Rising of the Shield Hero because, frankly, it is literary garbage, but I personally like it. It is objectively terrible, but I personally like it, if that makes any sense. So, so yeah. Anyways, basically, that is to say that, much like a lot of other kids my age, I was not interested in reading and writing and all of that. However, because like there were certain pieces of fiction, like written fiction, that appealed to my own personal interests and my own personal experiences, I discovered that reading is actually a very, very interesting thing to do that I would actually enjoy reading. So what I did after reading the Shield Hero stuff is that I started expanding my horizons. I've started reading more manga. I've started reading more novels. I started reading a lot of stuff, and it doesn't matter what you read to start with, right? Like as long as you expand your horizons and just look around, I think you'll be fine. But basically, a lot of kids today, especially those in the school system right now, like after COVID kids, they can't read for shit. And it's becoming a huge problem because literacy rates across my country, the United States of America, have been plummeting. And I'm sure they've been plummeting in other Western countries, probably because of TikTok and all this other stuff like social media. So, it's becoming a huge problem. But I think that, like, you know, with my own literacy, uh, video games, visual novels helped me very much. So I'm thankful for that, even if I sound like a retard. So I'm not the most intelligent person. I've had several mental developmental delays. I've been mentally and emotionally stunted for, I think, most of my life. And it's honestly, to tell the truth, I think a lot of people should just. This is gonna sound cliche, but like, find something that interests you to read, because trust me when I say that if you find something that truly interests you, that appeals to your own things, even if it's to your own, like, if your own interests, if your own experiences, right? Even if it's bad, even if it's terrible, right? That is a good place to start reading. So yeah, there isn't really a bad way to start reading, and yeah, and I've been, to tell you the truth, I've been trying to write a web novel, much like Rising of the Shield Hero, except without all the deranged shit. But anyways, so yeah, but like, yeah, like literacy rates have been plummeting all across the United States of America, and I guess that just reminded me of it and reminded me of how I struggled becoming literate. So, you know, huh? I don't think anyone here. I don't. No, I think everyone here can read fine. Yeah, never mind. There are some battles that you can never win. Trying to explain jokes is one of them. My dad taught me the hard way. Say, Yuko, have you seen Hanako about? She left class early, but she wasn't in her usual hiding place. I think I saw her sneak in before lunch. Oh, but I'm not supposed to tell anyone that. I just told you that I saw her leave. No need to stress out. Oh, of course. She's probably in the back. Thanks. Get any new books recently? No, sorry. I'll let you know when we do, though. Okay. If there's one thing I know about librarians, part-time or otherwise, it's that they appreciate people who take a genuine interest in their work. I walk the now familiar path to Hanako's reading nook, picking out a few titles along the way. Sometimes I find it hard to discover a book that will interest me among the shelves. An author's name and a two-word title don't mean much in the sea of similar words. For that reason, I sometimes reread books that I read in the past. Better to bet on the favorite than a new runner. An unfamiliar title from a familiar author peaks among the spines of its neighbors, so I remove it from the shelf. At least I'm not going over old material. Yeah. Yeah, recently, with video games, since a lot of mainstream developers have been fucking up, essentially, and changing shit, like, for example, granted, we haven't seen much of the Persona 4 remake, but simply just looking at it, like looking what they say about it, um, I'm not going, like, I'm going to be, like, looking at Let's Plays and stuff to see what they change, because personally, I am not buying it. And, basically, I think I'm going to look into more indie developers to give them a chance, because I know for a fact that indie developers that haven't been, like, why would I give a chance to people that have burned me many times, burned many people many times, over and over again, at these companies, when I could just simply, give a chance to these, like, poor, like, indie developers, right? Right? Why would I give a company its, like, fourth or fifth chance when an indie developer hasn't even had one? So, yeah. As expected, Hanako sits on her beanbag, buried deep in a copy of Dance, Dance, Dance. Dance, Dance, Dance? Hi, Hanako. How's it going? I fight back the urge to ask why she left class early. If Lily's suspicions were right, then asking her about that could have the opposite effect. It's best to leave it for the time being. Sometimes the best way to get an answer for someone is to never ask the question. Hello, Hizao. I'm fine. Dance, Dance, Dance. Is that like a book to teach someone how to dance? It's like Hanako wanting to dance with Hizao or something. Something feels off, and after a couple of seconds, I realize what it is. Hanako's smiling. She looks as if she's pleased to see me. It's a nice change from the usual instinctively frightened reaction. Something I hope I can see more of as we get to know each other better. Good to hear. How's that book? I've heard it's a trip. It's good, I think. I've only just started it, so I don't really know. Fair enough. Let me know how it goes. I may borrow it once you're done. Okay. So it isn't an instructional book. Sure. There's a good 15 minutes left in lunch. Not enough to really get into a book, but too much to stand around doing nothing. And Hanako's already returned to her reading, so I doubt I'll get much conversation from her. Oh well, better make myself comfortable. I slouch into a beanbag and crack open my book. The familiar style of the author leaps out at me from the very first line. As the sentences turn into paragraphs, I start to relax a little. But no matter how I try, I can't seem to get myself into the atmosphere of the book. This is partially due to the lack of time, but the more distracting factor is Hanako. Every 10 or so seconds, she peers over the top of her book, but when our eyes meet, she quickly ducks behind the covers. I guess she did want to talk about something after all. What's up? You look like a prairie dog on lookout. It's nothing. I've told you before, nothing means something when you say it like that. Hanako squirms a little in her beanbag, hoping that by changing her position, she'll find the words that she's looking for. I was in an accident. Accident? Just now? Are you alright? Hanako shakes her head. Her hair flowing around her shoulders in wisps of amethyst on a background of pale and dark flesh. No, when I was younger. Realization crashes into me like a semi. When I was... It's alright, Hanako. You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to. Again, she shakes her head. No, I have to tell you. When I was young, I was in a fire. Okay, well... I think I'm going to save here. And record this a bit later. So I'm just going to go to the main menu for now. Okay, so it's been Dean the Autist. Thank you for watching. I'm going to record the next episode in like a few minutes because I need to go to the bathroom and I'm not sitting through another scene. So have a nice day. Thank you for watching.